Hello, I really enjoyed watching y'all's videos. I'm just going to go in order that I watched. Timothy, I liked how you touched upon how the models that went from old to new that you talked about, how as it changed from old to new, it switched from noun to verbs. And I thought that was cool to show that it went and sort of changed into a more proactive way of looking at things instead of just stating how it is, using the verbs to show action for the change. And you also noted that it's a good reminder to ask students why they're leaving, and not just talk about it with other faculty members, because if it's the students that are leaving, they're the ones who are unhappy and they're the ones we should be talking to about it. So that's a good point to remember as student affairs practitioners. If students are unhappy, call them into our office, and ask for a few moments of their time to figure out why they're leaving. Samantha S., you talked about in the Schlossberg reading that the anticipated transition you discussed is really related to our athletes, and I totally agree with that because this stage of transition in their life is one of those times where it's an anticipated transition, which doesn't necessarily make it any easier, though. Daniela, I liked how you really focused on the self-awareness piece as well. And I think it's really important that we are self-aware and self-reflect and try to figure out where we fit into a lot of the different spectrums in terms of how to interact with students. And also you talked about how students handle stress, also relating it back to the athletes. And I know that one of my athletes has a lot of stress and a high level of anxiety, and it translates into, I think, frustration when I'm with her that is often targeted at me. And I think keeping in mind that maybe, you know, it's not that she's frustrated at me, but maybe she's just having a hard time with things right now. And there are a few things I realize that are difficult for her, which I think, shows how she does handle stress, which maybe is something we can work on together, is handling anxiety in a little bit more of a, beneficial way. And Sam P., you were talking about the 7 vectors in the checkerings theory, but what I was really interested in was how you said you were volunteering at the Gateway Clubhouse, as what you called it, with the adults who've had brain injuries, and how with those 7 vectors, you're sort of touching on different ways to sort of build each one of those different qualities, I guess you could call them. So for example, becoming autonomous was one of the things you talked about, by doing things like taking them kickboxing, administrative tasks, social outings. And I think it's really cool to see you relate something that's so different from our athlete experience, but still how you can use things like the 7 vectors from our reading, and the activities that you do can sort of correlate and interrelate with all those was awesome. To sort of summarize an update that I'm excited about for my athletic advising experience, I spoke with the directors of it about the hard time I'm having with one of my athletes, and they're actually going to let me have multiple athletes during the time chunk I would have seen her and just let her go ahead and do her own thing. Um, so now I'll be checking in with, I think, about 3 to 5 athletes during my one time block, and I'll be helping what the study hall monitors would have done, fill out those little timesheets with all the names, classes, grades, and I'm going to go through with multiple athletes because one of the main staff is leaving, and so I'm going to try to help take over some of their responsibilities. I'm really excited for that. Look forward to listening. Hope you're having a good week.